Welcome to the Hollywood Outsider, a weekly entertainment podcast. In this episode, because we are splitting our reviews up from our regular episodes, and we are going to review Masters of the Air. That's the new Apple TV series. Masters of the Universe Revolution. He-Man is back. Or is this going to be one of those things where they deviate and go somewhere else? Griselda. And we might even talk about Poor Things and Zorro. We'll see. Let's get on with the show. My name is Aaron Peterson, and joining me for this episode will be John Davenport. He's doing some of the reviews, and I'll be doing a few myself. I want to start off with this whole Roadhouse situation. I don't know if you heard this, but Doug Liman, who's the director of the upcoming Roadhouse remake, is putting Amazon Prime on blast and saying that he is not going to attend the South by Southwest premiere of Roadhouse with Jake Gyllenhaal, which is, he's pulling a Swayze as a UFC fighter who's taking on another Roadhouse somewhere else. It's a kind of a remake. I guess it's not a direct remake. It's more of an offshoot. Same name, but different name. Same guy, but not quite the same guy. I don't know. Anyway, Doug Liman is saying, hey, when I made this deal, I made it with Amazon, or I made it with MGM Studios before Amazon took it and propagated it. And now that you guys own MGM, you told me, finish your movie and we'll see where we're at when it's done. He's saying that it tested higher than anything else he's ever done, and they still don't want to give it a theatrical release. They want to release it on Prime Video, and they want people to get excited that way. So the Prime Video releases March 21st, and it's going to debut at South by Southwest, which I'm going to be at, on March 8th. And because it will not get a theatrical release, Doug Liman said he will not attend this South by Southwest premiere. He's putting his feet down, he's putting a line in the sand, and he's saying, I'm not doing it. I refuse, because you guys said I was going to get a theatrical release. Well, they said maybe. Gave you maybe. It's like a parent, when you ask them, hey, if I do this thing, can I go out with my friends later? Maybe, we'll see. You should know better. They're not going to let you. Look, you're owned by Amazon. They still funded your movie. I hope it's a great movie. I look forward to seeing it. He feels like it's going to be a massive hit if it releases in theaters. Look, the first Roadhouse was not a massive hit in theaters. I don't know if this will be or wouldn't be, and we'll never know. But I don't know if you're doing your film a good benefit by kind of, making such a spectacle of it, because now you're making people, it's putting a negative on the film that you made, like all the work that you've done. Now, granted, I understand if he had the understanding that they might reconsider a theatrical release and they didn't do that. Well, in the future, don't work with Amazon, I guess. This happens. Films get shelved all the time. There are many films that are made for theatrical release and never see one. I don't know if when the studio is still going to release it on Prime, where more people will see it than they would in a theater anyway through time, if that's really the stance you want to take. Now, me personally, huge advocate for the theatrical experience. I think that's amazing. I want to see everything in a theater first. I want to see everything in a theater first. There's some TV I'd rather see in a theater. I am an advocate for the theatrical experience. I just think it's the best way to see a film. That said, I wouldn't willingly shit on the thing that I spent so much time on. But he knows what he's doing. Doug Liman's been around for a while. He's done The Bourne Identity. He did Mr. and Mrs. Smith, which he said this film is testing higher than that one. I would be surprised if that's the case, but I'm not doubting them. It's got Conor McGregor. That right there makes it, are you sure it tested higher than Brad Pitt? Are you positive? Jake Gyllenhaal's great and all, but are you sure? Because Conor McGregor versus Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt, it's a hill he's willing to die on. I guess time will tell, and we'll get to see the film ultimately on March 21st. But it's an interesting dynamic because you don't see many directors taking that stand. And whether we listening or talking agree or disagree with that stance, you got to give him credit for taking the stand to begin with, because it's going to hurt him in Hollywood. And he, I'm sure, is well aware of it, but he still went out there publicly and said, yeah, I'm not going to be there for the premiere. You guys did not do what you made me feel like you were going to do. Interesting dynamic. And I do want to talk about Poor Things before we get into too much. I talked about it on our recent Oscar nominations episode, where we also discussed the Barbie snubs or non-snubs. and how strongly we did or didn't feel about it. And I've gotten some people that have written in and say, hey, Barbie's not that good a movie. Relax. Okay. Well, I was still nominated for Best Picture, so I mean, it must be something, right? It wasn't even in my top 5, man. So don't get mad at me of the year. I'm just telling you that of the ones that were nominated, Greta Gerwig was better than at least 2 to 3 of them in terms of direction. Doesn't mean that the other ones weren't worthy. I think people sometimes take things on a negative intentionally, but don't want to listen to the context of the conversation. And the whole Margot Robbie is a depending on where you stand with it. Troy obviously feels different than I felt, etc. See what I mean? Go back and listen to the episode if you want all the details. But we talked about Poor Things, and that's now expanding more widely theatrically. And I kind of I don't want to go into too in depth on it because it's been out for a little bit, but it just started finally getting a wide release because of all the Oscar nominations. Because I think it's second next to Oppenheimer in terms of releases. By the way, someone told me Oppenheimer is a Godzilla prequel, and now I can't get that out of my head. How horrible and also clever that is. So anyway, Poor Things, directed by Yorgos Lanthimos, who got an Oscar nomination, and it stars Emma Stone, Mark Ruffalo, Willem Dafoe, and it's horny Barbie. That's what the story is. It's horny Barbie. It's about the evolution of Bella Baxter, who's this woman who was brought to life, essentially, by Willem Dafoe's character, Dr. Godwin Baxter. Now, that portion is very much Frankenstein, right? She is given reanimation. She's given a second chance at life, but unfortunately, she begins life anew as a baby of sorts because she doesn't understand the world. So she has to learn it, grow, adapt, has a lot of sex, is taken advantage of by a lot of people, gains more intelligence, more identity, gets a stronger belief in her core and where she wants to go with her own life and take her own chances and make her own path. And that's what the film ends up becoming. It's just told in a very fantastical world. It's very, very much a fable. I didn't get to expand on it too much in the Oscar nominations episode, but I just want to tell you, it is a fantastical world. It's very Terry Gilliam. If you ever saw his films, very, very much in that vein, where it's such a fantastical world, very fabled, very dynamic and weird and outlandish. And Emma Stone's performance as Bella Baxter is wild and definitely going out there, which is why I have no problem with her getting a nomination, and she'll probably win and deservedly. Like, her performance is captivating. The movie itself is too long. It's very odd. And I don't think it quite captures what it's going for. It almost feels a little too force-fed as it goes. I am also not on the mindset that Mark Ruffalo was mesmerizing. I think Willem Dafoe gives a much deeper performance here as Dr. Godwin. Mark Ruffalo's a little over the top, but over the top is a show-away role, hence the nomination. I get it. It happens. But it's not a bad performance by any means, just a little over the top. So it's a very fantastical film. I would give it like $5. If $10 is the full price for admission, I give that one $5. I do not feel like it is Best Picture worthy. I understand performance-wise, but I don't understand the Best Picture worthiness. And once you go see it, you tell me what you think and tell me if you agree. It's just basically horny Barbie. Now here's John with his reviews of Masters of the Air and a little bit of He-Man, Masters of the Universe Revolution, which means he just wanted to watch all the Masters things. Take that for what you will.
Hey everybody, it's John from The Hollywood Outsider. First on the list is Masters of Air on Apple Plus TV or Apple TV Plus. I don't remember which one it is. After a long wait, companion series to Band of Brothers and The Pacific. Executive producers Steven Spielberg, Tom Hanks, Gary Getzman, the masterminds behind the first two World War II based miniseries have reunited for the third installment, basically or practically ensuring that this may hit the highest standards of its predecessors. The series is based on Donald L. Miller's novel Masters of Air, America's Bomber Boys who fought in the air war against the Nazi Germany. It's a long title, but that's the book that it's based off of, much like how the first Band of Brothers was based off of a single book, and then the second one was based off of collections of book, which that was the Pacific. This one's based off of one book. It narrates the true story of the 100th Bombardment Group of the America 8th Air Force. It is beautiful to look at. Everything you can think of as far as how Band of Brothers made a real life world to sit in, and how the Pacific made something that's gritty and felt like you were there. This does the same thing. It stars Austin Butler. You might know him as Elvis. Callum Turner. You might know him as, I don't know, any of the roles that he's done. Nothing really stands out with the exception of maybe Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. Barry Coonan, who was in Saltburn. Everyone's expertly casted, and the action is something to behold. Like, I am a big fan of the bomber stories when it comes to World War II. I think it comes from my family's background. I had a grandfather who was one of the bomber pilots in World War II, and he used to regale us with stories of what life was like back then. And so I have a bit of a nostalgic feel for me, because it sort of makes me feel like I'm connected to one of my grandfathers. The whole thing, as far as the way it's shot, is beautiful. The fighting feels like it's real. It's some of the most intense bomber stuff that I've seen in a long time. They're really amping it up and making it feel just scary. So if you're a fan of movies like The Memphis Belle, you're going to love this. If you're a big fan of the Pacific and Band of Brothers, you're going to love this. In all honesty, the team that made this show haven't failed me yet when it comes to my World War II engagement, I guess. So this is going to be something that I think that everyone should sit down and take the time to watch. It is spectacular in how beautiful it's done. I can't say that enough. I'll probably give this a 9.50 and get really close to giving it a 10, because it just feels that good. There's something magical about this whole series. So from Masters of the Air, I'm going to go ahead and take a left turn and do something completely different, which is talk about Netflix's Masters of the Universe Revolution. It is the brainchild of Kevin Smith, and as some of you already know, Kevin Smith is one of my favorite people on the planet, not just directors, but just creative minds, and his ability to stay open and available to people is something that I always think is pretty amazing. Masters of the Universe Revolution. What do we have here in store for everybody? Well, the story is going to be like this. It's a new chapter that in the battle for Grayskull. The newly mechanized Skeletor, armed with the might of the motherboard, attacks the heart of Eternia while Prince Adam grapples with a new responsibility of what it means for him to be He-Man. Adam is forced to choose between the scepter or the sword, and choose life as either the king or the champion of Eternia. Meanwhile, the new sorceress Tila searches for a secret of the snake magic in the midst of dark smoke to rebuild a magic realm. This is a realm called Preternia, and this is kind of like the hero heaven for Eternia. It was destroyed in the first season by Evil Lyn. Evil Lyn's back, but now she's just Lyn because she decided to not be so evil. Even maybe a little bit good. I don't know. You've got a lot going on, and for those who are fans of maybe even something as great as She-Ra, the villain for She-Ra shows up, Hordak, and he is going to be the antagonist of this whole story. As far as the kind of acting that you're going to see, it's going to be voice acting, right? You got Mark Hamill playing Skeletor, which is very close to his Joker voice. You have Melissa Benoist being Tila. William Shatner shows up as Keldor, who is Adam's uncle, long lost uncle Stephen Root is Cringer, and a whole host of other people that you may know. Lena Headey is Evil Lynn, or just Lynn. Keith David is Hordak, and again, I can just keep on going. If you're a fan of anything that has anything to do with He-Man, whether it's the toys, whether it's a cartoon, whether it's even the Dolph Lundgren movie, you're going to get a little bit of everything that you want out of this. There's callbacks to the movie. There's callbacks to different toy lines. Like you see Battle Damage He-Man. There's a whole period in which he's running around without the sword and he's got a battle axe. It's pretty cool. If you grew up enjoying that, you'd like it. Kids should be able to get into this just as much because it does have still that kid feeling that they should enjoy this sort of thing, and it plays to all sides, much like the first season did. It doesn't just play to He-Man being an all-powerful guy. It goes back and forth with the partnership between a man and a woman, and what kind of respect they hold for one another. Again, it's got a great story to it, and I had a lot of fun watching it. It's 5 quick 26-minute episodes. Before you know it, you're already to the end. It's a very quick movie if you want to just sit down and binge it. This just came out this weekend on Netflix. If I had to score it, I would give it $6. I'm not necessarily the biggest of He-Man fans, but, it was the 80s. I didn't have a lot of things to watch, and I probably did watch He-Man quite a bit, and I probably did get excited about the movie because I was a dumb kid. Again, He-Man was never really my favorite, but I am enjoying Kevin Smith's takes on these stories and how he's updating them for current times and thoughts.
Oh, and also, before we get to Griselda, John also saw the new Zorro. He wanted to share some thoughts on Zorro. On Prime right now.
And taking another fantastic turn to a different direction entirely, Amazon Prime just on the 19th, Johnston McCauley's creation, Zorro. And when I say Johnston McCauley, he was the creator of Zorro back in 1920. And he is known for such pulp comic characters such as Black Star, the Spider, the Crimson Clown, and many more. If you're a fan of the story of Zorro, which I hope you are, because it is a fantastic kind of adventure series, very swashbuckly, depending on how you want to say it. And this story is a live-action adventure produced by Sequoia Studio, and it stars Miguel Bernardo. And it represents a bold reinterpretation of the classic hero El Zorro. And bold, I would say, is an accurate way of saying it, because the thing about this series that I initially stood out to me was that it's filmed in a way that, much like a movie, the characters are very well hashed out. You've got Crystal Fernandez from Ted Lasso. He actually plays the former Zorro, and it jumps back and forth in time a little bit. The way they take the story has a little bit to do more with how the native people of the United States interacted with some of the locals, or not quote unquote locals, of different towns, and how they took them under the wing. And it has this action feel straight out of Errol Flynn, or I feel like a lot of times I'm watching some outtakes from the Three Musketeers, and maybe even a little bit from the Zorro movie. Does it have the charm of the Antonio Banderas Zorro movies? No, because it doesn't have Antonio Banderas. It doesn't have Catherine Zeta-Jones. It has a whole different sort of people to it, have their own feel, and there's a bit of, like, I want to say, you get hamstrung a little bit because the series is dubbed in English, and it's kind of unfortunate that it's dubbed in English because you don't actually get to see some of the acting coming through. It has to do with how those words sound. So everything kind of sounds a little bit off because, again, it is completely dubbed, and it messes with it a little bit, but the action is still really great. The story still really lands, and it is, again, something that is shot in a beautiful manner with a lot of care put into the scenery around and the actors, the wardrobe, everything. Overall, I'm going to go ahead and give the series a 5 out of $10, and it's a good sit. It's on Amazon Prime. It is a bit of fun.
Then we come to Netflix's Griselda, which follows Griselda Blanco, the cocaine godmother, if you don't know who that is. Basically, if you're a fan of Narcos, it's from the same creators. And this is looking at the cocaine godmother. She is a woman who, quote unquote, left her husband in a body bag and came to Miami with her kids and decided to, reestablish herself as one of the fiercest cartel leaders to ever have lived. She's famously known as the only person that Pablo Escobar was actually terrified of. Now, when I first heard that this was coming out, and all 6 episodes are available now on Netflix, I was immediately excited. I want to see this story on screen. I'm captivated by the idea. And then I saw who was going to play Griselda Blanco. And that's Sofia Vergara, who, beautiful, stunning woman, loved her on Modern Family, has a lot better comedic timing than I think some people ever give her credit for. And oftentimes is not really seen as a dramatic actress because she hasn't done much dramatic work. So I was not sold. I'm being perfectly honest. And then I caught the trailer. They do some plastic work, some makeup effects on her nose to make it look like she has a different facial structure than she does. Basically, take the beauty out of Sofia Vergara, because the real Griselda Blanco wasn't a gorgeous woman, but she has charismatic, so it was captivating in a way, but she didn't look like Sofia Vergara. She's a beautiful, stunning woman by any criticism. To take the beauty out of her is quite an accomplishment with makeup, and they oftentimes pull it out. In fact, I think she does such a good job here that you lose that essence of Sofia Vergara. You lose that allure, that beauty, the model, the gorgeous woman that you see whenever you watch Modern Family. Like, you lose that. Like, she still has her stunning figure, and she still has, her beauty underneath and whatnot. But the makeup and her performance does enough to separate it, which I think was quite impressive. It's not an easy role to play, and she does a wonderful job of, from episode to episode. You start from episode 1 and you're building through to episode 6 to the person she ends up being. You start where she came to the States and she's desperate and she's hurt and she's struggling and she's trying to find her footing. And then she grows into this mammoth of a cartel leader, like this vicious, damn near psychotic, vengeful, insecure cartel leader. That's a whole range. That whole sequence from episode 1 to 6 is an entire range. And some people I've already seen some that are kind of writing it off as, a little overly dramatic and whatnot. I don't feel like it is. I feel like this is a very intriguing, intoxicating show, and she's giving a career best performance. I mean, I have a full faith that she is going to reignite her career in a completely different direction with this performance, because she's going way against type. She's doing something much more than relying on her looks. She is relying on her performance and her ability to showcase that what an intelligent, strong woman she is. And she never really gets the ability to do. Now, if you really watch Modern Family, you have seen those aspects, because there's a lot of really smart things that she did in that show that never got enough attention, because she's also next to, Claire and her husband, who are easily the showboaters of the whole series. But she had an ability to kind of elevate her performance above what it should have been. And here she really, really captivates. I think she does a fantastic job. And that's what the whole series is about. And you've got Alberto Guerra as Dario, who, I don't want to give too much away, but becomes very involved in her business and becomes somebody that you kind of want a spinoff or something. I mean, even though this is based on real life, you're like, can this dude get a spinoff? He's that cool. I mean, he's just got that much joie de vivre. I mean, he's great. And then you have local authorities that are trying to believe that a female is actually leading a cartel, because at that time in the late 70s, early 80s, it didn't happen. And that's really what this film or this series is showcasing, is Griselda's climb through the ranks in a male-dominated industry. I mean, they're almost positioning it like she is a hero of female empowerment. Because, hey, look, yeah, yeah, all these guys are controlling cartels, and here's Griselda coming in, and they won't take her seriously, even though she's got the best ideas. She knows what she's doing. So she has to take charge and do some vicious things, but she had to because you wouldn't listen to her. I mean, it's essentially trying to paint it as if she's almost an anti-hero. She is not. She is not. But that is kind of, the series is painting it from her perspective, which I think is very important, because if you're going to tell this show's and this character's point of view, this person's point of view, you need to do it from her point of view, not from those that she hurt along the way. You do get those perspectives as you go, but this is really Griselda's story, and they are telling it from her point of view. I think this is a very well done series. I'm glad it's only 6 episodes. I feel like 8's too many, and we don't need multiple seasons. Like, this is something that can be told in one stretch, kind of like a Dahmer or something like that. And it's awesome to hear this story told in this way, and to see Sofia Vergara just really knock it out of the park, man. I was super impressed with her performance, and I think you guys will be too. So please be sure to check out Griselda. It's on Netflix now, all 6 episodes. None of that wait week to week nonsense. You just binge it. Binge it. Yeah, that's what it was meant for. I give this one $8. It is riveting. Okay, that's going to do it for this episode. We've got another one coming this week, the 1984 movie Battle Royale. It's a fantastic episode. It's already done and ready to come out. It'll be out on Wednesday of this week if you're listening to it the week of release. All right, guys, thanks for listening. And remember, the next time you head to the theater or sit comfortably on your couch, because there's so much stuff to watch there, buy popcorn.